What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another Commit to Hit recap. So, long day of golf for not only the viewer, but for me. Started in the dark for me this morning at around 5 a.m., playing a little simulator golf in my breakfast league, and then finished in the dark with what we'll get to in a little bit. So, before we get into that, make sure that go do it, go subscribe, help me out. Trying to get this channel up and going, whether it be YouTube, follow me on Twitter. That's where you're going to find me the most at. And then we're going to have the short little kind of outtakes of each recap video on YouTube Shorts and TikTok. So go subscribe right now. Do it. Click the bell, whatever you got to do. Leave a comment, knock yourself out, and help me with the video and subscribe. So we've got Pebble Beach Pro Am was this week. It's still technically going. And then we have LIV Mayakoba. So LIV in Mexico. I actually stayed at a resort this past year that was like 5 minutes down the road. If I knew that I was going to be there, I probably would have brought my golf clubs, but it's fine. So we'll start out with Pebble and what's been going on. Honestly, not a ton of recap to deal with. Pebble was relatively inconsequential, dare I say. So round one, main points there. Rory, he started out 6 under. He was a leader by two after, I believe, 13 holes. And he finishes round one at 1 under par. So he was at 3 under, and then he gets tacked on a two-stroke penalty, which wouldn't be the only penalty we saw this weekend from a player. And he just totally lost it. Like, he played even worse the following day, and don't know what happened. Round two, not much going on. Third round was the big time when Wyndham was on 58 watch, ends up shooting a 60, but honestly, he was probably 6 total inches from shooting a 57. When it comes to Wyndham, I have kind of like a irrational hatred. I don't hate the guy, but like an irrational dislike. It's mostly based on him beating Rory at the U.S. Open. I'm a Rory stan. You can say it, whatever. I just want to see him win a major. He's my favorite player at this point, other than Tiger. And yeah, him beating Rory last year in the U.S. Open at LACC was tough. So yeah, irrational dislike for Wyndham Clark. But I think it's good for golf that you don't like everybody. That's not how. Like, you look at the WWE, you got the heels, you got the heroes, and it works well. The same thing with football. There's players you don't like, and there's players that you love, and it's a perfect blend of everything, and it gets you hyped up for news either way, whether it's on a player you like or you don't like. So, and it just gets you riled up one way or the other. So it's good for golf. Golf does not have a lot of it other than PGA Tour versus LIV. But yeah, that's where we are there. Also, round three, we had the Ludwig walk and talk. Ludwig's going to be a freaking star. Like, once I think he comes into himself a little bit more, has a little more confidence with the media on camera, his game's going to speak for itself. But I think he has an opportunity to be a huge star once things do come around for him. So I'm excited to see that for him. And then Scotty Scheffler is back to not making any putts. So he had a great round two. I think he shot like 8 under. And then third round just could not make a putt. Couldn't buy a putt to save his life. So it gets talked about a lot. He says it's not a huge problem, but like he hears about it all the time, and it's a problem for him. If he could, there's crazy stats on how many wins he would have if he would just like shoot tour average putting or strokes gained average and like zero point 0.0 strokes gained. He would be crushing it and have a ton of wins, but he consistently loses shots to the field putting, and it's the ball striking he has to not get more than he has. If he doesn't get a ton more wins and do a lot of consequential things in the game of golf, we're going to look back on him as a career that he did not kind of get all the juice out of the squeeze, if you will. And then going back to Wyndham, it's looking like, so getting to the weather now. Wyndham's 60 and I believe he's 2 shots up right now. I think he's at 16 under par, and then he's either 16 or 17, and then Ludwig and somebody else is in second at 14 or 15. I know they're 2 shots back, but Wyndham's 2 shot lead may be enough so it's Sunday night now. All of Sunday was postponed due to wind primarily, with gusts up to 60, I believe they said, with like steady winds of 30 to 40 miles an hour. but then they're supposed to get today into tomorrow like 4.5 inches of rain. So there's a decent, you can't play if you get 4.5 inches of rain on a course. I think they said they could take up to about 3 inches, but it was already soaked to begin with. If you get another three, you're probably still toast. But if it gets up to four, it's over. So there's a decent chance this game, the final round actually gets canceled, and Wyndham just ends up with a 54-hole win. I know we want to see players suffer. This today was a little too much, but it would be sick to watch. You can't deny that. At some point, I feel like players have to just volunteer to do it one time. You're all already there. Get it. It would be one of the most watched golf clips and golf rounds watched potentially ever. So I think you got to do it at some point. I doubt they ever will. They're a little too prissy for that, but it would be sick to watch. But today was probably a little excessive. Besides that, not really a lot going on Pebble wise. We'll have a little bit more news that happened prior to the start of the event later, but let's get right into LIV Mayakoba. So, again, this wasn't a huge deal. There wasn't a lot really going on. I forgot that LIV was going on until Joaquin Niemann. For the sake of this, we're going to call him Wako. Everybody calls him Wako anymore. She was a 59 in round one, which really brought some eyeballs to social media, to the CW. So that's where a lot of people started diving in. He didn't do anything after that. Second round, he had a bad two-stroke penalty that was like laughably bad and just a careless drop. He didn't put his club down to mark where your one club length is of relief, and he gets a two-stroke penalty, which drops his lead from 2 going into the third round to, or 4-2 over John Rahm. Will it matter? I don't know. We'll get into it. So he actually coincidentally had the same drop today, and he did it correctly. So good job, Wako there. And then what's going into round three, everything is coming down to the three Spanish-speaking captains. So Wako, Joaquin Niemann, John Rahm, and then a charging Sergio Garcia. So Sergio he finished like 2 holes before everybody else, which is good in a regular tour circumstance, but this is a shotgun start. Hypothetically, all should be finishing at the same time, but that him finishing a few holes before John Rahm and Joaquin Niemann, who are in the same group, makes it a little more exciting, which is why I think we're going to get into this a little bit later too, why I think the shotgun start doesn't work. But Sergio finishes at 12 under par. John Rahm and Wako have 2 holes remaining, and they're both at 12 under. Rahm ends up making 2 bad bogeys. He goes into the hazard on 17, and then bogeys 18 as well. He's out of it. His team wins, but like the team portion, we're going to get into that a little bit later too. And then Wako, he has an 8-footer on 18 to win, and it just doesn't even sniff the hole. Bad putt, which ends up being a bad omen for the playoff. Spoiler, him and Sergio get into a playoff together at 12 under par, and then just kicks off kind of cool, mostly awful playoff. The 18th hole at Mayakoba sucked, and you got to see how much it sucked over watching it for 5 straight times for like an hour and a half. It's just a nondescript par 4. There's bunkers on the left side that don't even come into play really. There's jungle on the right side, and then it's mostly just straight, but they make it look interesting with some different grass lines in the fairway. And then there's a bunker on the right side up by the green. It's boring. It's a very boring hole, and it was even more boring to watch 4 times in a row. The playoff, awful shots, awful putts. The golf gods kind of screwed us by sending Wako. So the first playoff hole, Sergio puts one down the fairway. Joaquin Niemann smokes one into the jungle, and it somehow spits it back out, giving us 3 more holes of mostly shit play, I must say. Not trying to rhyme there, but excuse me. Wako finally makes a putt in the dark and ends it, which is where it got cool. They finally started taking them. So they were taking them on golf carts after they finished the hole, drive them all the way back, and then they'd walk, do their normal thing. After the second playoff hole, I was about to lose my mind because they weren't doing it. Finally, they put them on the carts and sent them down the fairway, got them to their ball, got them to the green much quicker, saved them some time. If they didn't do that, they wouldn't have finished. Anyway, yeah, they have basically on that final playoff hole, the fourth playoff hole, they had, in order to see, they had a huge jumbotron basically lighting up the green. So thankfully they had that there. Otherwise, I'm not sure they would have been able to see because you could tell everything else was just almost pitch black at that point. But yeah, Wako ends up getting his first live win. I wish he would have just won on 18, or Sergio would have won on the first playoff hole because, like I said, the playoff was not great. But yeah, Wako wins in the dark to end it. So that's cool. John Rahm, his team, or Legion 13, gets the team win. And with that, let's dive into my overall live takes. So the graphics are very beneficial and additive. Nice to see where the optimal landing spots is or what the best line is to take on a drive. Very beneficial. I like watching that. Their leaderboard also growing on me. I like to see like in real time players moving up and down the leaderboard. It's not as much of a eyesore as I thought it might initially be. So I'm good with that stuff. When their horses run, it's fun. And you can say the same kind of thing with the PGA Tour, but Liv has a little bit more of a drop off of overall talent. So you think even with PGA Tour a couple weeks ago when it was Nick Dunlap versus Sam Burns, there's still some thrill to the PGA Tour even when their studs aren't on the leaderboard there. If Liv doesn't have that, they're toast and they have nothing. So, and then the last thing I have is more of the critiques. Their three biggest selling points to make golf different are just not doing it, in my opinion. So, first off, shotgun start. It just doesn't work. Like I said, they got lucky today with it, the leaders finishing 2 holes behind. So, you had some of that anticipation. But if everybody finishes at the same time, like there's no like anxiety to it really. Nobody knows where anybody else is. I just don't think shotgun starts work. It doesn't. If there is any drama, it immediately cuts it out when everybody finishes at the same time. The music is just so antithetical to serious golf. It's crazy in my opinion. Like I play music on the course, but it's not blaring at all times. It's not like it's playing in the car when we're driving between holes and we're going to shots in the fairway, but not like all the time with EDM and just loud music like while I'm putting, doing anything. It's just always there. And I'd probably lose my mind if obviously you can't say it because it's part of their selling point if you're a player, but I would gather that not all of them love it. Like other than having the same polos, saying that they're on the team, showing that they're on the same team on the leaderboard, like what what are we getting out of the team aspect? Like it seems like the team aspect right now is more of a sideshow than what they bill it as team golf. That's their main product. Like that's the what differentiates them. When it's seems like more of it's about the money for the solo players and who wins, and then whatever team wins is an after show. Like if they flip that emphasis, I think Liv probably has something, but they just don't have it worked out yet, and I think they will need to have that worked out if you want something that really differentiates Liv from the PGA Tour. And besides that, that's all I really have for my overall Liv takes for now. And then let's flip it a little bit. Let's get to some of the golf news. So earlier in the week, we had Rory coming back, and so like we talked about before, Rory was at playing at Pebble, didn't play well. But if you saw my other video earlier in the week talking about how Rory wants the guys that come back from Live to not have any penalties when they rejoin the tour, and there's has been a little bit of backlash, not really backlash, but other guys expressing, hey, Rory has his opinion, but I basically have something else. Guys like Adam Scott, Jordan Spieth. So it'll be curious to see what they end up doing once they all do get back together at some point. I think they're going to, which brings me to my next point of Uh, it this was on January 30th. It said imminent deal, a deal between the PGA Tour and PIF, and the Strategic Sports Group is now imminent, per Danny Rappaport. That was on January 30th. It is the evening of February 4th. Still nothing. So at some point, you'd like to think they're going to get back together, but I don't know. We'd like it to happen sooner rather than later, but it's kind of getting frustrating at this point. Um, and then getting to kind of what was going on during the live broadcast itself. So we talk about PGA Tour all the time, especially this hit the hardest for the Ryder Cup when people would wake up to watch the Ryder Cup early in the morning and just get obliterated with commercials. Well, there was a lot of commercials on the CW during the live broadcast, and I would say that it didn't seem as much towards the end. I was watching on the Live Golf app, which seems a little buggy. I was also watching on the CW app because I don't have that on my TV, and I still haven't downloaded the app on my TV because I never watched the CW. Anyway, a lot of commercials, and Chris Powers, I believe he works for. Let's see, forget Golf Digest. His quote with it discussing a lot of commercials on CW. It's also nauseating. Everyone thinks this side or that side is winning, when in reality, we're all getting fucked. Reminds me of political discourse. Actually, it doesn't remind me of it. It's exactly like it, and I 100% agree. Both sides suck, and whoever wins at this point is almost like who cares, because the product that we want to be so good and just watch golf is more than likely going to suck. So that's tough. That's tough. And honestly, a relatively light golf news week besides that. And obviously the content of what went on during Live and at Pebble Beach. So, final thing is the good old shank of the week. Remember, it could be golf related, it could be a shank, it could be totally non golf related. So, what do we have this week? Are we going to get our first shank? We are not. So, it's going to be Neuralink. I'm sure you've heard of this. If you haven't, this week they did their first, Elon Musk and Neuralink completed their first human trial and implanted Neuralink in a human. Initial results show promising neuron spike detection. So what we're looking at with this is game changing in the future. So right now it's more for a rehabilitative purpose. If Elon Musk said the potential is there for, if you're born blind, the ability to be able to see in the future. With people with paralysis, the ability to potentially walk and use their extremities with it, as well as speech, being able to basically just think your thoughts and not actually having to speak. So it's definitely game changing and going to be, from a rehabilitative standpoint, once things do get approved. Well, then you think about long term what it can do, like for the human race, and how it can improve your overall functioning of your brain. So you hear that we only utilize really 20% of our brain on a day-to-day basis and throughout our lifetime. So if we can unlock things with Neuralink, like where can that be? You talk about Neuralink, and then quantum computing, which I saw something the other day that said quantum computing will be able to solve problems in minutes what the current computer software, which is obviously super high tech, would take millions of years to solve. So just thinking about that blows your mind, and what kind of precipice and inflection point we're at as a society with AI, Neuralink, quantum computing, and what happens when we go over this edge. So 30 years old, I'm fairly young. Chances are I'm going to see some of that happening in the future. So that should be interesting. And that is that's the shank of the week. So thank you for tuning in to Commit to Hit. As always, please follow and subscribe. It's at Commit to Hit on all social media, and of course here on YouTube. So hit that subscribe, click the bell, whatever you're supposed to do. And then I will see you next week for what should be like 2 raucous golf events. We have the Waste Management Phoenix Open, which will be leading into the Super Bowl. And then we'll have LIV Vegas that finishes on Saturday. So good call by them. And LIV really got lucky this week with basically everybody who's going to watch the PGA Tour at Pebble Beach looking for golf probably went over to LIV. So they got golf all by themselves on Sunday, ends up in a playoff in the dark. So you can't really ask for much more if you're LIV. And they'll have their final round finishing on Saturday in Vegas. So Super Bowl might throw things off a little bit with scheduling of the show, but it'll be out there. Jeez, it'll be out there anyway. I don't know what that was. Sorry, but I will see you guys next week. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.